So Jai Bhim, Namo Buddhaya to all of you. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So today we are going to move on to section 2 of the part 5 of the book 5 of the Buddha and his Dhamma. And today we will be looking at or studying the sermons on the need for maintaining character. So it's a section 2, and it has, as you can see, it has the section 2 has 7 subsections. So the title of the section 2 is Sermons on the Need for Maintaining Character. And we have seen that the theme of the character has been so much underlined by Baba Ambedkar throughout the Buddha and his Dhamma. But here Baba Ambedkar goes into the detailed discussion as to what constitute the ethical man or a woman. So the section 2, titled as Sermons on the Need for Maintaining Character, is divided into 7 subsections. Number 1 is what constitute the downfall of man. Second, the wicked man. The third, the best man. The fourth, the enlightened man. Fifth, man just and good. 6, need for doing good deeds. 7, need for making good resolutions. So you see this all subsections of section 2 together they give a complete view on the need for maintaining character. So what I thought for today is I'm going to cover the subsection 1 because it's a long one, and then in the subsequent sections we will be dealing classes will be dealing with each of the categories of the wicked man, the best man, the enlightened man, man just and good in the subsequent classes. But today we will focus on what constitute the downfall of man. And I think that's a very important discussion that is there in the Buddha and his Dhamma, what constitute the downfall of man. There are about 15 verses here, but these verses are taken from what is called from the Tripitaka directly, from the Khuddaka Nikaya. And in the Khuddaka Nikaya, there is a Sutta Nipat, and in Sutta Nipat, there is a Sutta which is called the Parabhava Sutta. Now, Parabhava, we know in the Indian language, is a downfall, is a defeat. So what constitutes the defeat of a man? What constitutes the defeat of a human being? So the Buddha has given the detailed account in the Parabhava Sutta, which is the sutta of the downfall or the defeat of the human being, how the human beings are defeated. And the text, I compared both the Pali text and what Baba Ambedkar has given here in the Buddha and his Dhamma. More or less, they are the same. There is no difference at all between the two, except some grammatical variation, but the translation is the same. So because this subsection 1 of the section 2 is important, I thought that I'm going to read it throughout, and then we will gloss over the verses in this Parabhava Sutta. So what constitutes the downfall of man? On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling in the monastery of Anathapindaka in the Jeta Groha near Shravasti. So you see this location of the sutta where the Buddha delivered the sutta is very clear, and it was delivered in Savatthi, and even the place where this sutta was delivered is also mentioned. Now, when the night was far spent, a certain Deva whose splendor illuminated the whole Jeta Grove came to the presence of the Blessed One, and drawing near, respectfully saluted him and stood at one side. Standing thus, he addressed the Blessed One in verse. So, because this Sutta Nipat is full of gathas, it is considered to be one of the oldest of the Buddhist available teachings, Sutta Nipat. And in Sutta Nipat, in Sutta Nipat, we get a lot of beautiful and profound suttas. One of them is Parabhava Sutta, which Baba Sahib Ambedkar has quoted here. So, having come to interrogate the Blessed One, I asked thee, O Gautama, about the falling man. You know, who is the fallen man? How is the human being fallen? Pray tell me the cause of one's downfall, how one is defeated, how one's downfall takes place. The Blessed One consented to explain the causes of man's downfall. So the verse number 1, which is the verse number 4 here in the Buddha's Dhamma, is easily known is the progressive one, easily known is the declining one. The Buddha says that it's very easy to know who are the progressive ones and who are the declining ones or regressing ones. A lover of the Dhamma is the progressive one, a hater of the Dhamma is the declining one. The vicious are dear to him. In the virtuous, he finds nothing pleasing. He favors the creeds of the vicious. That this is the second cause of one's downfall. 6, the man who is drowsy, fond of society, not industrious, indolent, and who manifests anger. This is the third cause of one's downfall. Whosoever, being rich, does not support his aged mother and father, who have passed their youth. This is the fourth cause of one's downfall. 8, he who by falsehood deceives a Brahmana or an ascetic or any other mendicant. This is the fifth cause of one's downfall. The man who owes much property, who has gold and food, but alone enjoys his delicacies. This is the sixth cause of one's downfall. The man who prides in birth or wealth or clan and despises his own kinsmen. This is the seventh cause of one's downfall. 11th, the man who is debauchee, drunkard, a gambler, who squanders whatever he possesses. This is the eighth cause of one's downfall. Not contented with one's own wives. If one is seen amongst courtesans and the wives of others, this is the ninth cause of one's downfall. He who places in authority an intemperate, spendthrift woman or man of similar nature, this is the 11th cause of one's downfall. He who by of slender means but vast ambitions of warrior birth aspires to sovereignty, this is the 12th cause of one's downfall. Know these causes of downfall, a noble Deva, and if you succeed in overcoming them, you will be saved. The Buddha has effectively underlined around 11 causes of Parabhava. By 11 ways, one can be defeated, a human being can be defeated, or it leads to the downfall of a man. And this is very clearly laid out by the Buddha. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through each of them one by one and going to gloss over the various causes of the downfall. So the Buddha begins with a very important cause of the downfall of a human being. So he says, easily known is the progressive one. So a progressive one can be easily found. Those who are making progress in their lives, they can be easily found. That's what the Buddha says. Easily known is the declining one. We can see those people who are going down also can be easily known. So how do we know? A lover of the Dhamma is the progressive one, isn't it? So you see, the Buddha has put it very beautifully, and the way it is described here by Baba Ambedkar, translated here, a lover of the Dhamma is the progressive one. So those who love the Dhamma, the path of the Shila, Samadhi, and Prajna, they are the progressive ones. A hater of the Dhamma is the declining one, isn't it? So, we don't have to take this as Dhamma means something which is like, confined to some kind of a religious doctrines or some kind of, some kind of books. Here, the Dhamma, as we have been studying in the classes, is a wider notion, is a wider concept. It means the complete path to one's development. So one who loves the Dhamma is the progressive one. A hater of the Dhamma is the declining one. And I think that's very clear. How do we understand the lover of the Dhamma and the hater of the Dhamma? So the lover of the Dhamma is the progressive one and the hater of the Dhamma is the declining one. So that's how you know whether somebody is being victorious or somebody is going to be defeated. So whosoever loves the Dhamma, practices the Dhamma, follows the Dhamma will always be victorious. That's what the Buddha is saying here. And one who hates the Dhamma, who hates the morality, who hates the path of samadhi, who hates the path of prajna, they will decline and they will be defeated. So this verse is very clear. So in the Buddhist parlance, there are two kinds of loves. One love is for the Dhamma, which is called in the traditional Pali text, it's called Kamachanda. The desire for sensuality, the desire for sensual pleasures. And there is another chanda, which is called Dhamma chanda, the love for the Dhamma, or the fond of Dhamma. So this is very clear. And to reinforce the learning, I'm going to read it again. Easily known is the progressive one. Easily known is the declining one. A lover of the Dhamma is the progressive one. A hater of the Dhamma is the declining one. Now, loving the Dhamma is not just enough. What is need to be done if we want to not fall down, or if we do not want to be defeated? So for the person who is declining one, let's read. The vicious are dear to him. In the virtuous, he finds nothing pleasing. See, the Buddha always talked about Kalyan Mitrata, means company, keeping company of the good friends, keeping company of those who will be. Am I audible there? Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, there was an internet problem. The electricity is not there. Okay. So the Buddha says that, that they are described how important it is to keep the company of the good people, and how the company of the, Michha Mitra, Kalyana Mitra and the Michha Mitra is something that leads to your welfare. And the Buddha says that whosoever, for the person who is declining one, the vicious are dear to him. In the virtuous, he finds nothing pleasing. He favors the creeds of the vicious. This is the second cause of one's downfall. So first is the love of the Dhamma, and the second is, keeping the company of those who are virtuous ones. Find delight in the company of the virtuous one. In other words, cultivating what is called the Kalyan Maitri, or Maitri with those who leads to our welfare. So I'm going to read it again. The fifth, the vicious are dear to him. In the virtuous, he finds nothing pleasing. He favors the creeds of the vicious. This is the second cause of one's downfall. That is what the Buddha says. This is the second cause of one's downfall. The third, the man who is drowsy, fond of society, not industrious, intolerant, and who manifests anger. This is the third cause of one's downfall. So drowsy means always, indulging into laziness, not active, inactive, always enjoying the company of others. In terms of, the Buddha says, fond of society doesn't mean the society that we often talk about. It means, fond of the people, indulging into some kind of a merrymaking with others. We can, in the modern versions, we can say we're fond of too much of parties. The man who is drowsy, fond of the company of others, not industrious, intolerant, and who manifests anger. This is the third cause of one's downfall. The third cause is very much clear to us, isn't it? That if a person is drowsy, if he's enjoying the company of others too much, merrymaking, not industrious, intolerant, and who manifests anger. This is the third cause of one's downfall. Very clear. The whosoever being rich, if somebody is rich but becoming rich, having had all the riches, does not support his aged mother and father who have passed their youth. This is the fourth cause of one's downfall. This is a very clear sort of a verse and a statement as to what constitute the downfall of a man. Eighth, he who by falsehood deceives a Brahmana or an ascetic or any other mendicant. This is the fifth cause of one's downfall. Deceiving somebody who is already on the path, somebody who is doing good to the world. Here, the word Brahmana doesn't have to be taken. We don't have to take it in terms of what is called the in terms of the caste. it is the compound that was used at the time of the Buddha, Shramana, Brahmana, and somebody who is devoted to a good life. In that term, the Buddha has used the term here. So it has nothing to do with the caste locations of the people. It has to do with how one is living one's life. So he who by falsehood deceives a Brahmana or an ascetic or any other mendicant, this is the fifth cause of one's downfall. We have seen that the themes of hypocrisy, the themes of falsehood has been a recurring theme in the Buddha's teachings. In other words, the Buddha is asking us to be authenticate human beings. He is asking us to be true to ourselves and not deceive anyone. Certainly do not deceive anyone who is already on the path. This is the fifth cause of one's downfall. The man who owns much property, who has gold and food, but alone enjoys his delicacies. This is the sixth cause of one's downfall, isn't it? So somebody is having too much of a wealth, having a lot of wealth, much property, and at the time of the Buddha, the property was measured in terms of having gold and food, but alone enjoys his delicacies. This is the sixth cause of one's downfall. In other words, the Buddha is saying that if we want to succeed in the life, we must learn to share our possessions with others. If we have excessive of anything, we must be able to let go of it. We must be able to share it. And that's very beautifully explained here by the Buddha. The man who prides in birth or wealth or clan and despises his own kinsmen, this is the seventh cause of one's downfall. Unnecessarily people take pride in their birth, like in terms of the caste. So the caste pride, the wealth, people take pride in their wealth, in their possessions, and people take pride in their clan, in their kula, or in their communities, or in their ancestry. The Buddha says that whosoever takes pride like that in one's birth, in one's wealth, or in clan, and he or she despises his own kinsmen, hating others, hating his own people, this is the seventh cause of one's downfall. Very clear statements. The 12th is about adultery, and very clear to us. Not contented with one's own wives, if one is seen among courtesans and the wives of others, this is the ninth cause of one's downfall. In the present context, this can be reversed. This is also true for the women. So you see, the 12th is about the adultery, not contented with one's own wives, if one is seen amongst courtesans and the wives of others, this is the ninth cause of one's downfall. 13th, he who places in authority an intemperate, spendthrift women or man of similar nature, this is the 11th cause of one's downfall. If somebody, if we are working in a business or working in a society or any organization or any group, and if we place somebody in authority who is intemperate, spendthrift, man or women, this leads to the downfall of one's own. So giving the authority to those who are going to misuse the authority, who will be careless, who won't value it, is also the cause of one's downfall. He who of slender means but vast ambition of warrior birth aspires to sovereignty, this is the 12th cause of one's downfall. This is very important. Sometimes we have ambitions which is more than what we can do. Within our limits, we have slender means, but we have a vast ambition. We want to achieve something which is beyond our resources. And if we do that, this is going to lead to a downfall. In other words, the Buddha is saying that, map out your resources. In other words, the Buddha is saying that, don't have a fantastical or fanciful ambition. First check what resources you got. And this is very important, to check one's resources as to what kind of resources one got. If we have slender means, but we have the vast ambition of warrior birth, aspires to sovereignty, this is the 12th cause of one's downfall. 5th, know this causes of downfall in noble deva, and if you succeed in overcoming them, you will be saved. Even the devas need to be saved. Even the person who has attained to higher sort of stations in the life, even they have to be overcome. They have to overcome, and even they have to be saved and succeed. they have to succeed. So you see, the point of this Parabhava Sutta is to indicate to us as to what leads to our progress and what leads to our decline. And as Baba Ambedkar says that in the discussion on Shila, on morality, that's how important it is for oneself to know what is right and what is wrong. Unless we have a sense of what is right and wrong, we do not have a standard to judge what we are doing, what we are speaking, what we are thinking is right or wrong. And I think that criteria can be used here. And this Parabhava Sutta is very clear in clearly laying out the framework for making progress. So I'm going to read again. I'm going to summarize as briefly as I can the various ideas that have come up in this particular subsection of the section 2 of the part 4 and the book 4 of the Buddha and Dhamma. So I'm going to read it again, and while I read it, I'm going to just point out some of the important ideas which are mentioned in this particular sutta and as included by Baba Sahib Ambedkar. What constitutes the downfall of man? On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling in the monastery of Anathapindaka in the Jetagroha near Shravasti. Now, when the night was far spent, a certain Deva whose splendor illuminated the whole Jetagroha came to the presence of the Blessed One and drawing near, respectfully saluted him and stood at one side. Standing thus, he addressed the Blessed One in verse. Having come to interrogate the Blessed One, I asked thee, O Gautama, about the falling man. Pray tell me the cause of one's downfall. The Blessed One consented to explain the causes of man's downfall. Easily known is the progressive one. The Buddha says, easily known is the progressive one. Easily known is the declining one. A lover of the Dhamma is the progressive one. A hater of the Dhamma is the declining one. And we can elaborate these words, expand it and develop this particular to the words into what constitute a progressive human being and what constitute a declining human being. And the lover of Dhamma, what do we mean by Dhamma here? The Shila, Samadhi, and Prajna. And who is the hater of Dhamma? We can define that. And on the two basis, we can create the two frameworks of progressive human beings and the declining human beings. The vicious are dear to him. In the virtuous, he finds nothing pleasing. He favors the creeds of the vicious. This is the second cause of one's downfall. The Buddha is very categorically clear here about keeping the good company, keeping the company of the righteous people around us. In other words, enjoying the companionship of those who are on the path, the people who can be called the Kalyan Mitra, the auspicious or good friends or the beautiful friends. So the Buddha is stressing the importance of the good company, and everywhere Buddha emphasizes on the company of the good people. So the vicious ones are dear to him. In the virtuous, he finds nothing pleasing. He favors the creeds of the vicious. This is the second cause of one's downfall. The man who is drowsy, fond of society or company, not industrious, indolent, and who manifests anger. This is the third cause of one's downfall. Very clear. An angry person can never succeed. A person who is lazy can never succeed. A person who is enjoying too much of the company of others is not going to succeed. That is what the Buddha says, that sometimes we have to spend time with ourselves. Sometimes we have to know ourselves. Whosoever being rich does not support his aged mother and father who have passed their youth, this is the fourth cause of one's downfall. Very clear. If somebody is having the means to do it, they should do it. 8. He who by falsehood deceives a Brahmana or an ascetic or any other mendicant. This is the fifth cause of one's downfall. Deceiving those who are already progressing on the path, who are on the path of the Dhamma. If we deceive them, this is the fifth cause of one's downfall. And 9th, the man who owns much property, who has gold and food, but alone enjoys his delicacies. This is the sixth cause of one's downfall. So if somebody is having enough of everything and they fail to share with others, this leads to the downfall. In other words, we have to share what we have in excess with others. This is very clearly said by the Buddha. The man who prides in birth or wealth or clan and despises his own kinsmen. This is the seventh cause of one's downfall. If one is unnecessarily taking pride in one's jati, one's kula, one's any form of taking pride of your nationality, it can include everything that one person is we take proud of, we take pride of. And if we do that, this leads to the downfall of the person. The man who is debauchy, drunkard, a gambler who squanders whatever he possesses. This is the eighth cause of one's downfall. Very clear. If somebody is drunkard, debaucher, gambler, and whoever squanders his wealth, just like that, it will always lead to the downfall of a person. Not contented with one's own values. If one is seen among the courtesans and the wives of others, this is the ninth cause of one's downfall. Very clear, very categorically mentioned by the Buddha. The 13th verse, he who places in authority an intemperate, spendthrift, women or man of similar nature, this is the 11th cause of one's downfall. He who of slender means but vast ambition of warrior birth aspires to sovereignty, this is the 12th cause of one's downfall. So there are actually 12 causes of one's downfall, and we can very clearly write them down. We can study them, we can understand them, and we can practice them. Know these causes of downfall, a noble deva, and if you succeed in overcoming them, then you will be saved. So the only way one can be saved is by overcoming these barriers, and that's how the man succeeds. So this is in a nutshell what the Buddha, Baba Sahib included in the Buddha and his Dhamma straight away from the Parabhava Sutta of the Sutta Nipat of the Khuddaka Nikaya in the Tripitaka. So I will take a pause here and open up the class for any comments or any discussions or anything that anybody would like to share. Hello. Alka ma'am, you want to say something?
Practices the Dhamma. So these verses are like in verse number 9. The man who owns much property, who has gold and food, but he doesn't give to anyone, he doesn't believe in dana. Then in the verse number 10, worth is important than birth of a man. So this is caste system in India. This is the important point. That birth is important and not birth of the man.
True.
The person, the views of the person matters, whether he understands views are right or wrong, how he acknowledges the Dhamma, whether he likes or wants to follow or not, and whether he hates or it shows the decline of a man, obviously, without telling him that he follows or not. By looking at the decline of him, one can understand that he follows or not.
Thank you so much, Alka madam. We approach Dhamma from anywhere, it leads to the same thing. Shila, Samadhi, and Pradnya. Approach the Dhamma from any sutra, any side, the underlying theme is the same. Sila, Samadhi, and Pradnya. But, the way Buddha details out certain things, for example, here the Buddha has very categorically detailed out the separate things as to what constitute the progress and what constitute a decline. And I think this is very important for us to keep in mind the details, and in the present context, we have to make sense of the sutta, like, how do we practice it in the present, in the contemporary world. So thank you so much, Alka madam. Anyone?
Jai Bhim, sir.
Devi Shashank.
Yes. So this today's chapter deals with downfalls of a man and how we can be progressive, how we can achieve the progress through the Dhamma. But these 12 downfalls, which Baba Sahib has mentioned through Buddha, I think everyone goes through those downfalls sometimes in our life. Sometimes we're not able to, come with the practice of Dhamma on a daily basis. And the verse number 6, I think most of the people are falling trap. For example, the man who is drowsy, fond of society, not industrious, indolent, who manifests anger. This is the third cause of one's downfall. And this is the verse number 6. I can say every man goes through that. Sometimes they get lazy, sometimes they get drowsy, sometimes, if not drowsy, they get so much angry, and they fall in trap of that anger and laziness, and then they give a very less importance to the morality, less importance to the Dhamma. So there where it starts declining their progress, I can say, because we can say that one simple example, that if one who practices Dhamma, for example, a simple 10 minutes of meditation every day he practice that, a simple 10 minutes of meditation every day, and one day he not able to practice that, and he feels certain thing is missing, and sometimes he reacts to the external situation in terms of anger, in terms of not attentive to his thoughts, attentive to his behavior. So this simple sort of a practice of Dhamma, 10 minutes of meditation every day, really helps to strengthen the morality, strengthen the behavior that he's possessing. And that's why the one beautiful line I really love, that the lover of the Dhamma is the progressive one, the hater of the Dhamma is the declining one. And lover of the Dhamma is in that sense that he is giving the prime importance to the Dhamma. He brings the Dhamma in the center of life. He not gives a center on anybody, but he gives the Dhamma a center of his life. And that's where his progress begins. That's where he's like in achievements, all the successes begins from where the Dhamma he keeps at the center of his life, not far away from his life. So in that sense, we can say that a lover of the Dhamma is a progressive one, a hater of the Dhamma is a declining one. Yeah.
Good. Very good. Very good. Very good. Very nicely said. No, that is the beauty of studying it again and again, because the Buddha and Dhamma, as I often say, needs to be studied again and again. It has to be gone through again and again. It, if possible, every day, some verses of it. So that's how Baba Ambedkar has written it, to give us more and more clarity about how to practice Dhamma, how to make Dhamma the part of our life, the integral part of our life. And I think that's the beauty of the Buddhist Dhamma, that we can get all these different variations on the same theme of the Shila, Samadhi, and Prajna, but with more clarity as we read it, study it, as we practice it. So you're right, Shashank. This is like the sentence is like, a lover of the Dhamma is the progressive one, a hater of the Dhamma is the declining one. They look like simple sentences, but if we go into deep depth of that, if we understand them very deeply, we can begin to see as to what Buddha meant by that and what Baba Ambedkar meant by that. Thank you, Shashank.
Verse number 5, the wishes are dear to him. In the virtuous, he finds nothing pleasing. The vicious man praises the vicious man only. And by his speech, he is outspoken and he hurts the virtuous man always. And at that time, when he is outspoken and tells lie, and he is angry and doesn't follow Dhamma, but at the same time he is harming himself. He doesn't understand that he is harming himself, but when he talks and behaves by his action, he hurts the virtuous person.
No, nicely said. Nicely said.
Yeah.
In the subsequent chapters, we are going to look at what constitute a wicked man, what constitute the best man, what constitute the enlightened man. And I think that discussion will be very helpful to us, and what constitute man just and good. So, as I was saying that why in the way Baba Ambedkar has arranged the content of the Buddhism is very important. So you are right, madam, that, this, in other words, keeping the company of the good people, cherishing the friendship with other good people is very important. As the Buddha says, second most important. Love the Dhamma, keep the company of the good people. Don't be lazy, don't be angry. If we want to put it simply, don't squander your wealth, support your family. Don't deceive the people who are doing good. If you share with others, do not squander your wealth. Do not do not commit adultery. Do not place somebody in the power who is not worthy of it, and do not do anything which is not in your power. Just otherwise you will fall. So you see, in these few words, we can summarize the entire section of the Parabhava Sutta. So you are right. Keeping the company of the good people is very important. Anything from anybody? Prashant, Dhananjay, Arvind, Mahasenji, Rahul, Pankaj.
His son must support his aged mother and father. This is most important.
This is
in
important.
society.
Yes.
And the person who doesn't support, doesn't take care of his old parents, then it is downfall only.
Yes. That's very true, madam. That's very true. So if not, then should we end the class today here? So see you in the next week. Thank you so much for joining in.
Jai Bhim.
Jai.
Thank you, sir. Jai Bhim.